Hello and welcome to another episode of Our Own Devices with Nanadagopal Rajan. No prizes for guessing that this is Nanadagopal again in front of you. And I think you'll be surprised with our guest today, a very popular name in the space of Indian technology. We have with us Vikas Jain, who all of us know as one of the founders of Micromax. He's now the founder of a new company which is called the World of Play, which is looking at a lot of new devices in the tech ecosystem. Vikas, welcome to the
Thank
show.
you, Nanadagopal. How are you?
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, Vikas. And there are a lot of very interesting things that we can talk about. But before that, could you just explain what you do with the world of play? What are the kind of technologies that you are into?
World of Play, what we focused on is the whole connected device ecosystem. So, as you know, India is becoming more and more connected, courtesy the 4G and the high-speed broadband internet. We believe for a population as huge as 1.4 billion people, it's only but natural that connected device ecosystem is going to prosper, and there are new use cases or applications that are going to evolve. So the design team for us sits out at our office in Pune. We have the corporate office in Delhi, and currently we do massification of the AIoT ecosystem. So currently we are present in the acoustics and the wearable category, but there is a lot of things which are in the pipeline in the development. Stuff which will involve personal monitoring, personal surveillance. This is going to be beyond the CCTV application that we've seen in houses and offices. So a lot of interesting stuff to come in as we move from 2022 to 2023.
And interestingly, as you said, this is a company that is purely out of India, right? And Make in India is not a new concept for you, having done, having worked on Micromax for so many years, but entering this entire, the space of accessories and creating IoT devices, is that easier to do from a Make in India perspective, or is it tougher?
So I think still the initial years, but having seen that prosper so gloriously well in the mobile ecosystem, we remain fairly convinced about the whole AIoT space also getting further inroads into the Make in India mission. And fortunately, this has come out at a very nascent stage for this industry. So practically, you will see a lot of peers, competitors, as whatever you might call it, actually originating out of the country now. Especially with the advent of the current financial year, the government has given incentives for local manufacturing. So it's only a matter of time. I think by Diwali of the current year, a lot, if not all, of the product categories should start getting manufactured in India. Once the manufacturing comes in, design automatically follows, because you'll appreciate once the manufacturing comes in, then the component ecosystem also starts evolving in the country. So I think from that perspective, we took that leap of faith. We put in the design team well ahead of time, and fortunately, we've been able to differentiate from the otherwise quite cluttered ecosystem in the country right now.
So, we had a similar kind of phase in the smartphone segment, which you guys sort of pioneered, where Indian companies decided to manufacture in India, cater to the Indian masses. And we are now seeing that in the wearable space, the truly wireless earphones space, the audio space, a lot of that. So do you think this is the start of something big in the Indian tech industry, that like you will see a lot of companies now emerge in this ecosystem and maybe branch off into other things also?
Yeah, so global politics, global economics, both are going through a metamorphosis. We've seen a lot of subtle tensions, if not paramount, happening on the political scenario. Same things happening on the economic front. So I think world is definitely looking at India as one of the options from a neutrality perspective in terms of manufacturing and design. We definitely have access to lot intelligent manpower. We have access to electronic ecosystem, and the best part is that we are a country of 1.4 billion population. So that's a fairly high number of population presiding in the country. So neither the talent nor the inbound market is going to be a challenge for us in the times to come.
Also, like in the past few years you have had a few players, including you, who have come in, have been successful. But do you also think that it might end up being a little bit crowded, that there will be a little bit of consolidation in the market also?
Of course. So as any industry evolves, initially you see mushrooming happening because it's a pure mismatch between demand and supply. So a lot of opportunist players also play a part in the ecosystem. But having said that, nothing derogatory against them, because while whatever they do could be termed as opportunists, that they also help evolve the ecosystem. They help consolidate the demand.
Yeah.
They help acquisition of the customer or introduction of the category to the initial customers. So I think everybody plays a role, and then over a period of time, as the industry consolidates, tech gets more mature, then suddenly you start consolidation happening amongst the peers in the industry, and it happens in any industry. So I don't think AIoT would be devoid of that. So in the times to come, a lot of consolidations should happen.
Also, this segment of wearables and smart audio devices, for instance, this is something that is finding huge adoption across the country, right? Like from children onwards, like everybody is using it. It's a huge market. So how do you see this evolving? And literally everybody wants a wearable device now.
Two ways to look at it. I mean, I would again classify the categories. So audio is getting the adulation mainly because of the availability of the digital content. We've seen the streaming platforms going through the roof in terms of adoption, in terms of minutes of usage. So I think audio as a category, acoustics as a category, is but natural to evolve as the digital content adoption grows in the country. So it's moving in the same pace. On the variable side, see, unfortunately, we came from two tough years. People were indoors, people were restricted for movement, and I think that also gave a lot of time for self introspection. People, realize how important is health with respect to the kind of a very hectic lifestyle that we've developed into, especially in the metro and the tier A towns, if not the tier 2 and the tier 3 cities. So people have evolved to the concept of giving time to themselves, giving time to their body, listening to the body, monitoring the key health attributes of yourself. So I think wearable is also growing into adoption because of that. And in the times to come, we believe right now the wearable adoption is happening because of the price to the consumer. But in the times to come, we can see a lot of medical grade sensors being used to actually be able to monitor your body medically and not only purely algorithmically the way it is happening right now.
Are you also expecting that a lot of these people, who have maybe who have maybe bought into the entry level, the more affordable devices initially, they will go up the value chain? And how do you cater to something like that? Because you will also, as a manufacturer, you also need to go up the value chain then, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, as against in any industry, the early adoption is because of the price factor, and playing to the population, price becomes essentially important. But having said that, price is not the ultimate winner. So, after the early adoption, the customer also learns about what are the specific requirements he or she has, and their ability to move up in the value chain and go for exactly something that they're looking at remains fairly high. Uh, Again, as a country, India has the highest youth population across the world. Youth is supposed to be the early technology adopter. So all those metrics actually favor in terms of establishing the category further. And as I said, as the tech gets more mature, the tech gets more commercial, we will see a lot of medical grade sensors coming in on the watches. We've seen the tier A brands in terms of Apple and other already using some real nice sensors, but then the customer acquisition happens at a very different price point. Now, for a brand to play to the masses, it's very important to listen to the customer voice in terms of the acquisition price. But as the customer evolves, I think that's something which will come very naturally to the customer. Hence, our ability to maneuver our design from what the sensor types that we're using right now to reaching out to our partner sensor companies and start using or adopting the medical grade sensors in our design. That's something that we're looking at.
So, are you also thinking that getting into services, especially in the wearable segment, is that a natural progression, or is it something that maybe in a market like India is maybe that it's something that you can do maybe 2 3 years later?
So, I'll be very honest, we would love to do that, but services as a category has been a major challenge in a country like India. We consumers love the concept of free content, and we really need to be pushed hard to pay for the content of the services. I mean, having said that, it's not that nobody's been able to do it, but it's really a long path towards success, right? So it's going to be more of a hybrid model. I mean, people who would love to go in for services, we definitely have a platform ready for that. We are doing our test cases with the consumers on that, but currently the acquisition is happening through the price point. And what at play what we are doing is we are remaining connected with the consumer. So we've invested on the companion app, so we get a whole lot of consumer insights in terms of what they're liking, what they're not. Consumers are able to communicate back with the brand in terms of, like, this is a whole connected ecosystem. So there could be OS variant which has changed. It could be a hardware, a smart hardware that you've bought in a mobile phone or a tablet, which is working on Bluetooth 5.2 or maybe a Wi-Fi 5. So you can develop compatibility issues, but the consumer, since he has that platform to communicate back with Play, we are able to sort out those issues and provide a lot of patches. So I think that's really helped us connect with the consumer, and consumer is loving it. For example, you can actually migrate from a Play hardware to another Play hardware and carry all your historical data, which means whatever was my fitness regime in 2021, I could migrate to a new hardware and then put that 2021 fitness data along on the new hardware. So it provides me a continuous monitoring, which doesn't happen in quite a few, if not almost all, other products which are available in the market.
It is interesting, Vikas, that you bring it up. But in the wearable segment, for instance, a lot of the differentiation happens with the software, right? And how you visualize the data, what inputs you are giving to the user. So how much of a thought is going into doing something like something like that, and how much of talent do we have in India to work on something like that?
Oh, from the talent perspective, what I can promise you, we are second to just about none. I mean, the whole study of UI, UX, the way we Indians have done it for ourselves, as well as, let's say, our customers who could be in east or west part of the world, that's something that we have historically been doing. Now, our ability to use that study for ourselves, and because the whole country is getting better connected, we're getting a lot of consumer insights in terms of the usage pattern, what exactly are the usage criterias, and how do we enhance them. I mean, these are all legible data, but still somebody needs to study that, absorb it, and actually evolve it to the next level. That's what the Play Design Labs team continuously keeps doing.
So have you seen any interesting insights which you think is very peculiar to the Indian market, right? And you would have a lot of context, having worked with Micromax earlier. So are you seeing things that which is very very unique to the Indian user?
So actually not unique to the Indian user, but see, what we saw was a big change in terms of, let's say, last year we were seeing more of number of steps being walked by the consumer.
Hmm.
This year 2022, we are seeing more of activities being done by the consumer, which is but natural because we had a lot of restricted movement last year. So people were not able to enjoy gym or outdoor sports and all. But this year, once the lockdown has opened up and we are able to enjoy outdoor sports and gymming, we're able to see those trends. So whatever you read in the media and all, you're able to place it along with the data, which kind of brings you a better conviction. Also, we are able to see which are the trending sports. So, for example, is it a pure gymming? Is it something like swimming? Is it something like tennis? Is it badminton, which is getting adoption? And we get a lot of, the sports flavor region wise. So, let's say down south, maybe tennis is more popular. whereas in western part of India, maybe badminton is more popular. So a lot of insights, as I said, and somebody needs to make sense, put them into buckets, analyze, and then we are able to give up patches accordingly. So it's very, very interesting.
So, the concept of make in India is also sort of linked to make for the world, right? Like, how we have to become that manufacturing hub, for the world, especially in a very neutral way, the current advantage that we find ourselves in. So what are your plans in that sector?
So we continue to remain engaged with our global partners. So definitely in this, we have a lot of stitched partnership with the global operators, global carriers, and you will appreciate nobody understands the consumer better in a country than the carrier, right? The amount of data they have.
Yeah.
We always, because of a particular device, we'll have a subset of the data that is available with the global operators. So our partnership with them, our ability to show them the consumer insights, that's something which is exciting. Our ability to design our solution or to actually improvise the solution based on the requirement of our global partners. So maybe next year you'll see a lot of launches of play in the global territory along with the national carriers in those countries. So a lot of work is being done in that direction right now.
When you're launching for an international market, is there a lot of work that you have to do on the back end? Because, like, again, body types are different, for instance, like, a lot of, so is that something that you really have to work on, or is it something that is already available or sort of built into the system?
So we do take care. We do take insights from our global partners. So we have established relationship with Google, so Google can give us access to a lot of data for the consumer in that territory. As I said, the partnerships with the global operators. So we're able to, bring along these data to actually become historical, and then over a small subset, we always do pilots before we go commercial in a country. So we're able to kind of enhance the data AI part of it before we go commercial in the country of choice.
The other thing, Vikas, I wanted to ask you is that when you were doing Micromax was a company which was very entwined with the Indian ecosystem, right? It would be everywhere in India. Like you knew the offline market very well. With the product like let's say acoustic devices or wearables, they are traditionally taught to be things that which sort of people buy online, but then you cannot manage India completely online, right? So how are you finding the pickup for these devices offline? Is that something you have been working on, to actually take it to heartland India?
So what we've been doing till now, we've been expanding ourselves purely offline. So we are available online also, but the focus has been to establish the brand in the offline platform because we still feel that these are the devices which needs an experience, a pre-purchase experience, than just weighing of the price versus the specs kind of a scenario.
Yeah.
And two devices with near similar specs can have a very, very differential performance. So we've been growing organically in the offline channel, but having said that, we're completely mindful of the fact that you can't cover, the entire country if you are not present in the online platforms as well. So I think now's the time we will start being present in the online platform also. There are customers who've actually experienced the play products. They understand what is the experience about. We have a fairly positive word of mouth from the consumers as well. And then, because of the sheer reach of the online platforms, we feel that we should be able to reach out to a new set of customers now.
Yeah, so because one thing I wanted to know is that, like, when it comes to wearable devices or even audio devices, a lot of complaints with the international brands is that these are not devices people can repair, in case something goes wrong. And in the Indian mindset, that is always something that is at the back of the mind that you are, putting in maybe good money. You would like to use it till the end of the life cycle of the product. So is that something that you guys are mindful about? So how important is after sales service in these segments?
Oh, great. Actually, see, being an Indian brand, we understand the Indian consumer, and there is no way an Indian consumer is going to pay you the cost of the device if he does not have a seamless after sales experience. So at Play, we have initialized a new concept which is called PAHS, Play at Home Service, which means in the unfortunate event the device gets an issue, You just log in a complaint, and it's a complete reverse logistics managed by the brand. The device gets picked up from your house, gets repaired or replaced and delivered back to your house. So you don't need to be wasting your time at the service center, standing in any queues and all. Having said that, there are physical service centers also, just in case you would like to go over there. So that's something that we're very cognizant about. And in our quest of having customer loyalty, we believe it actually hinges on a great customer support.
Thanks, Vikas, for being on the show. Very insightful conversation on how an Indian brand is is uh, is uh, is tapping into new segments, looking at the international market. I wish you all the best in your endeavors.
Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
So you were listening to Vikas Jain, the founder of World of Play, and we'll be back again next week with another guest. Our own devices is available everywhere you listen to your podcast.